right. Peace, family. I hope that y'all are well and happy and whole and all that good stuff. Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month, y'all. The intention of this video is for us to do a hoodoo. I was about to say hoodoo, a hoodoo Q&A. So feel free to ask your questions. Y'all know that I've been talking about hoodoo for a very long time. I put some old videos that I've posted like from 4 years ago up until now in the description of this video. And those videos contain information about what hoodoo is, hoodoo history. One of them is called All About Hoodoo, where I get into all of that. Another one is called Christianity and African Spirituality, where I talk about some commonalities between, the Christian religion and African spirituality, and whether or not it's okay to be a Christian and practice African spirituality. I have another video called All About African Spirituality, where I talk about ATRs as well as ADTRs in great detail, and many other videos about how to build an altar, how to care for your altar, and all of that. And all of those links are in the description of this video. The intention of this video is to answer any questions that y'all may have about hoodoo. This month, the month of October, is Hoodoo Heritage Month, y'all. It's Hoodoo Heritage Month. And Hoodoo Heritage Month is a very new holiday, I guess, or month celebration that happens every year. And it started about in 2019, and it was coined by a sister named Mama Ru. And essentially she just got on social media and was like, hey y'all, we should make this month, the month of October, Hoodoo Heritage Month, and let's just honor hoodoo, honor the elders and the ancestors who kept the traditions going and all of that. And it kind of just like sparked the thing. And I find it so interesting that like just that easy, y'all, just that easy. This sister started like a whole beautiful month-long celebration of hoodoo. And again, it started in 2019. So, and of course, we had the penny in 2020. And, with that being stated, it's just now in 2022 becoming more like mainstream and widespread, where folks are actually like taking this month to honor the traditions of hoodoo. So there's multiple festivals going on. I know in the wellness community, somebody posted a gathering that's happening like in their city or state. I know in New Orleans, Buku Hoodoo is having a hoodoo festival that's on the 5th. And they are also doing virtual passes. So you could go to Buku Hoodoo and attend that festival in person in New Orleans or virtually. I think the virtual passes are like $99 to be able to attend. So there's like a few events that are starting to pop up all over the country, and that's because hoodoo heritage is becoming more popular, but also just the tradition of hoodoo is becoming more popular. I know when I first started talking about this 4 or 5 years ago on my YouTube channel, and a little bit before that, actually, it wasn't as popular, but just starting to like get some popularity. And now it's like everywhere, which I think is a very beautiful thing. I'm a person who I love the fact that hoodoo is becoming more mainstream. I was telling the wellness community how I wish our ancestors were able to witness this, right? I wish that they were able to practice bold and out loud the way that many of us are, so the more information, the better, the more classes and courses and videos and festivals and celebrations, to me, the better it is. The more people who feel comfortable just honoring their ancestral traditions is a beautiful thing, right? So please, 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 like tap into as many hoodoo things as you can or as you desire. Okay. I also want to state this before I start answering questions. This is the thing about hoodoo, right? Y'all know hoodoo is ancestral. So let's just be clear. I have multiple videos giving breakdowns of hoodoo and African spirituality and altar care and all that stuff. So I'm not going to go in great detail unless certain questions are answered. But I just want to say that we know hoodoo is an African American tradition that is basically made up of our ancestral practices. Our ancestors who were enslaved from the continent of Africa came over with their own African traditional religions and spiritual practices, and they held on to them while being enslaved, right? While dealing with the trauma and the abuse of chattel slavery. And of course, there was a popular Abrahamic tradition here in America, as well as in many other countries where chattel slavery occurred. And that religion here was Christianity. So our ancestors hid their spiritual practices in the Christian religion because they were forbidden to practice. back then, and when I say back then, I'm talking about like from years and years and years and generations, and even to like my elders, right? Like great aunts, it wasn't termed hoodoo necessarily. It was always called root work, right? Or working the roots, root work. And you know, it's still popular. If you from the deep south, you got family in the deep south, y'all know, yeah, again, deep south, you know, people say, oh, she do them roots, or she be working them roots, or you know, she a root worker, and da 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 da. And it was a very feared thing. Even my elders, you know what I'm saying? Like I would hear people say, talk about their own, my friends talk about their own family members. People within my family be like, oh, you know, this person worked them roots, so you gotta watch them. You know, they work roots, you gotta watch them. It wasn't something that was celebrated and honored and loved or normalized. It was still hidden. Our ancestors had to have their practices, and our elders, many still living today, had to hide their practices. It wasn't cute to be a root worker. It wasn't popular to be a root worker. It wasn't praised to be a root worker. You were feared. You were shunned from the community. And many elders who are still living still deal with that trauma today, the trauma of being shunned from their family and friend groups for practicing or working the roots, you know. And a lot of it is because it has so many negative connotations oftentimes. And again, I'm speaking from someone who lived in I graduated high school in Augusta, Georgia, baby. My whole mother side of the family, my granddaddy's people, everybody is from Georgia, all up from the Geechee Coast all the way up to Augusta, moving into North Augusta, South Carolina, that whole area my people is from. Okay. To this day, I still get some phone calls from certain family members like, you know, you ain't supposed to be talking about that on the internet. You ain't supposed to be sharing. You talking too much now. You share too much information. And I don't get offended by it because I know the history of the trauma of being shunned and being, you know, ousted from your loved ones, you know, people seeing you as evil, you know, people thinking that you are going to do something negative to them because that is what they were taught from colonization. You know, again, our ancestors weren't allowed to practice their native African traditional religious practices and spiritual practices because they were colonized. The colonizers feared those practices. They couldn't interpret the language. They didn't know the herbs that were being used, and they were feared that these practices were being used against them. And why would I allow you to practice something that you could possibly use to take away my power and to hurt or harm me? So it was taught to many people. Come on, Bobby Jones Highway. Okay, Augusta. Come on, Bobby Jones. But yes, you know, it was taught that if you practice this, then you are evil, or if you see people working the roots or doing root work, then they are evil and they're going to do something negative to you, because that is what the colonizers believed was going to happen to them. So a lot of it is fear-based and fear-mongering. And again, that's why I love the fact that hoodoo is so popular now and so mainstream, because our ancestors and many of our elders didn't get a chance to experience this. And although some of the elders, you know, they don't like the new age things, and I'm constantly having conversations with them about the value of new age, right? They don't like the new age things. Like even some of them don't like the term hoodoo. Some of them love it. It's not like a one size fits all thing, you know. Some like it, some don't like it. Some like Hoodoo Heritage Month, some don't like Hoodoo Heritage Month. Some like that it's becoming more popular, some don't like that it's becoming more popular. Some people still have that, you know, you don't talk about this on the internet, you don't do this, you don't put this stuff in books, this information is sacred and private. Which for me personally, some of it I do agree with. The aspect that I agree with is that your personal workings and the things that you do for yourself, you should keep private. And y'all know I've talked about this before. I practice that with myself. I'm not a fan of like, you know, putting certain things on the internet, or like showing my certain things and herbs and things like that on the internet. I'll teach you about it and tell you certain things that you can do for your wellness, but I'm not a fan of putting it on the internet. But you know, so again, some of our elders are a fan of keeping things more sacred and private. And a part of that reason too is because they don't want it to be colonized again. They don't want it to be colonized again, you know. And yes, Shirley, that brings the topic of gatekeepers. They want to gatekeep a lot of this information, because another thing we have to remember is that, once a lot of our ancestors were, basically crucified and persecuted for practicing root work, and our elders were shamed for practicing it. But then there's a movie and wellness community. Shout out to y'all. We the vote is still open for us for the film for our next watch party. And on that list of options to watch is the film Skeleton Key. And when the film Skeleton Key came out, hoodoo or root work became popularized and it became mainstream. And when that happened, a lot of non-African American people started investigating and they became very interested, and they took a lot of the information that our elders and ancestors were shamed for practicing, and they colonized it again, and they made it mainstream, and they put it in books, and they spread the information, and they started utilizing the information. And what made it negative, and I have a whole separate video on this as well, is that they culturally appropriated it. And a lot of folks, and I'm hoping that some non-Black people are watching this, because there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to hoodoo, African spirituality, African traditional religion, and all of that. And I'm just gonna say, for me as a Black woman, and a lot of my elders who are Black people, the issue is that they take the credit for it. That's where the cultural appropriation comes from. The cultural appropriation is not so much, oh, you want to do it, or, oh, you want to wear it. The issue is when you take the credit for it and you erase the Black history of it. That is what the issue is. And that is what started happening. They started taking hoodoo practices and calling it Wicca. They started taking root work remedies and spells and things like that and started calling it Wicca. And that's when it became an issue. And don't get me wrong, Wicca existed very long too. Wicca has a long history, but some of the practices and things from this practice, they started pushing over to Wicca. And that again caused a lot of our elders and ancestors to go back behind closed doors and keep things quiet. And this was, around the time that the internet started becoming a little bit more popular and increasing in popularity. And that's why a lot of the elders are like, hey, keep it off the internet, keep this information private, keep this information sacred. So I say all of that to say, for me, as I said in the beginning, I'm very happy that hoodoo is becoming mainstream, that root work is becoming mainstream. I'm very happy that there are a lot of festivals and meetups and classes and courses, and I think all of that is beautiful. It's a lot of information out here. I'm very happy that a lot of folks are returning back to their root, and some of the negative stigma is being lifted off of practicing root work, right? Because it's not a negative thing. And just like anything, right? Just like Christianity, just like the Bible, just like anything can be weaponized. Anything can be weaponized. People in the church can pray against you, right? People in the church can do you wrong. Even in the church, y'all know my mother for a while was a Baptist minister. Okay, we was in the church for a while. Okay, I have some ministers in my family to this day. I was a PK for a while. Shout out to the PKs out there. Even, my mama would be like, hey, don't let everybody lay hands on you. And I'm sure a lot of church folks heard this. Don't let everybody lay hands on you. Everybody's intentions are not well. Everybody's not praying for your wellness, your health, your safety, your prosperity. Be careful who you let put oil on you. Be careful who you let put hands on you. Everything can be weaponized. A lot of folks, when they hear root work, and I always have to say for the Deep South, because again, that's where a lot of my family is. And I still get the phone calls like, be careful, watch what you're talking about, watch what you're putting out there. Because I do. And this is also part of the reason why I don't necessarily put my family out there, because a lot of people will look at them crazy who still hold those beliefs. When you still got folks who live in those areas and they see me on the internet and they know who I am, or they may hear my last name and they know my family and they're looking at my family crazy, like, oh, y'all do those things, So I have to even still be careful because of what they may be subjected to, because people still believe that this stuff is evil. People still believe that these things are negative and all of that, It's unfortunate, it's sad, but I always try to look at the positive side and say, but it's changing. it's changing. And why is it changing? Because we're talking about it. We're putting a name on it. We are sharing information. We are giving clarity. We are showing people that, hey, this is not a weapon to be used for negative reasons and terrible stuff. When we all grew up practicing hoodoo, we all grew up working the root. We all grew up using herbs and different things to heal ourselves, making tinctures and teas and hot toddies and all kind of stuff and rubs, salves, and all that stuff to heal ourselves, right? It's we all grew up like that, especially if you are Black in America, and also Caribbean Americans, like this is just what we do. This is just how we are. That's just a part of our culture. It's so ingrained and so embedded in our culture, so I love the fact that we are talking about it. And anytime I think about, because I'm not going to front, I'm a human. I have emotions. I care about my family. And when I get those phone calls, I do feel guilty sometimes. I do feel sad sometimes. But I also have to remember that I can't stop. It's because people think that way that I can't stop. It's because that people feel that way that I won't stop. Again, I've been check the description. My videos date back 4 or 5 years ago, some even before that. And I'm going to keep talking about it. And I'm going to keep sharing information. And I'm going to keep normalizing this because it is normal. We all grew up like this. Even if your family is deep, 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 deep church. Okay, even if then it was in there somewhere. If your mama ever made you a tea with some herbs in it when you got sick and told you to use it, that's root work. That's working the roots. That's using roots to benefit your wellness. Okay, something as simple as drinking a tea. Okay, your baby got sick. You made them you use put certain things in their water, or you had them drinking gripe water and things like that. That's all root work. Certain things. If your baby had bad dreams or was waking up in the middle of the night, and you ever hung an onion in a stocking over their door, or a garlic clove in a stocking over their door, that's root work. So things like that are. But this before we had dream catchers. Before you had a dream catcher, you had a onion or a garlic hanging in the stocking over the door, or an egg hanging in the stocking over the door. Okay, before dream catchers was known for us, before it became popular in America to have a dream catcher in your house, that was your dream catcher. Okay, so all of that is root work. If you were in the church again, I'm not going to go in detail. I have a video of Christianity and African spirituality, but if you were in the church and you were shouting and praising, that's the ring shout, baby. That's hoodoo. If you ever was using holy oil and you was laying hands, that's hoodoo, babes. Okay, that's no different from using Florida water or us having certain blessed oils and tinctures and things like that. It's no different. Okay, when they would bless the water, y'all remember holy water? Who was it? Peter Popoff? They used to be on BET selling the jugs of holy water that was prayed over. You supposed to drink it and they supposed to bless you. We pray over our water and we infuse our mantras and things in our water to this day because of the vibration of the water. That's hoodoo, babes. If you've ever been baptized in a river, we got songs about that. That's hoodoo, babes. So I don't care what your family did. If you participated in it, that's hoodoo, babes. And I do have to say, there are some misconceptions and there is some misinformation that is being shared about hoodoo. And I'm very careful simply because I do have to remind folks that, there's hoodoo and then there's Udo. So there are very traditional hoodoo practices. And then now that hoodoo is becoming more popular and more mainstream, I'm finding that a lot of people are kind of just applying everything to hoodoo, everything to hoodoo. And some of it is true, some of it is not true. Some of it is like, yes, that does trace back to hoodoo. And some of it is like, that's just Black culture. It just depends. It depends. Some things are just Black culture and you just grew up in Black culture. But just because it's Black culture doesn't necessarily mean it's hoodoo. So and we talked about this in the wellness community. Like, sis put up a song and it was LaShawn Pace. It was either there's a leak in this old building, or what's the other song she got? It's not I Am Changing, Lord. That's what's the name? What's the other song LaShawn Pace got? I can't believe I'm blinking on this. I Know I've Been Changed. That's the song. It was I Know I've Been Changed. And she put up the song. It was like, if your mama played this while you was cleaning up, growing up, that's hoodoo. And I was like, oh no, babe. Oh no, babe. That's not necessarily hoodoo. It's just because your mama played a gospel song while you was cleaning up, it doesn't necessarily mean it's hoodoo. Now, is it very much aligned with African American culture and many African cultures to sing songs while you were cleaning up? Absolutely. That's like singing spirituals and da 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 da. That's very much the culture. But is it hoodoo per se? Is it root work per se? Not necessarily. So there is some misinformation and some misconceptions, but also I'm not one to, like, I wasn't in the comments or anything. I'm not one to like necessarily correct things like that, simply because some people just need to feel that. Some people just need to feel that. If that's what makes you feel well and it brings you to study more root work and to study your culture even more and to study hoodoo more, by all means do it. And that's a lot of the conversation I'm having with the elders, right? A lot of the conversation I'm having with the elders is, listen, even though you may feel like this is misinformation, is it necessarily negative? Is it harmful to the practice? Is it hurtful to the practice? Is there a need to correct it? Or is this maybe misinformation that's bringing people in and making them feel more comfortable and making them feel more at home, to believe that when your mama played LaShawn Pace in your house growing up is hoodoo, and that makes you feel more comfortable being a root worker. By all means, believe it, babe. Feel that way. If that's what makes you feel well and brings you closer and makes you want to study more, believe it. So I'm having that conversation with the elders a lot of like, not all misinformation is negative. It's interesting because y'all know I'm a hip hop fan, and there's a battle rapper named Loaded Lux, and he coined it in 19 Keys, kind of like blew it up. If you know 19 Keys, he blew it up, which is positive propaganda. Positive propaganda. Some propaganda can be positive. Some things can be pushed in the media that'll push you in a more positive direction. So there's this concept of positive propaganda, and I believe things like that are positive propaganda. So yes, there's some misinformation about hoodoo. Yes, there's people who believe that there's a right and a wrong way to do things in hoodoo. But some of the misinformation kind of works in the favor. Some of the misinformation is positive misinformation, because it kind of leads people down the path to study more and to learn more, and then they'll figure out on their own what is factual and what's not factual, what's best and what's not best. But overall, hoodoo is meant to be safe and wellness centered and happy. And again, just like anything, it can be weaponized and used for negative. But I also have to give the little caveat. Even if you are utilizing hoodoo or root work to move negative energy out, that is for wellness. You know what I'm saying? So you always just have to be mindful of that. At the end of the day, hoodoo is meant to be centered in wellness, to do things to benefit the wellness of all of yourself, because you are included in the all and of all. And sometimes that does take dispelling negative energy. I remember when I first started the wellness community 3 years ago, and I put up some dispelling rituals, right? And the sister had messaged me and she was like, Queen, I want to be in the community, but I got to go, because she said her husband saw the word dispelling and was like, no, this is evil. You can't do this no more. So her husband didn't agree. As soon as he saw the word dispelling, he didn't agree, right? Because the spelling for a lot of people triggers exorcists and like negative emotions and feelings. And, I had to explain, like, when you're dispelling, removing, banishing negative energy, that is for your wellness. So just because you are moving negative energy or and doing things like dispelling rituals doesn't necessarily mean you are doing evil things. Which brings me to the last point, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions. So if y'all have a question, y'all can start putting it in the chat. The intentions that a person has is what their karma is based on. The energy you put out is the energy you get back. And again, this is with everything. Root work is not a negative thing. Hoodoo is not a negative thing. I will just simply say this. if your intention is to gain power and control and to do evil things, you will be powerless without control, and you will suffer at the hands of your own evilness. Okay? My favorite quote from The Color Purple, Miss Seeley, she said, "The jail you set for me is the one you are going to rot in. The jail you set for me is the one that you will rot in." Always remember that. The jail you set for another is the one that you will rot in. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of your intentions. Be mindful of what you are doing. Anybody who knows me, if you've been in the wellness community for a long time, I always tell y'all, I only work with energy that is for my wellness. I only do things that are wellness centered. If it ain't wellness centered, keep it away from me. Don't be asking me about how you could do anything to hurt or harm anybody or any of that. I'm not into any of that. So if any of your questions are centered in that, please do not don't bring it here. I'm not one of them. There's some people who are for that. There's some people who will teach you how to hurt and harm folks and all of that. That's their business. And the jail they help you set for others is also the one that they will rot in. Let's be clear on that. Okay? Let's be clear on that. One of my elders was talking to me about this the other day. My elder said, you got to be careful what you teaching folks to do, because even that comes back to you. What you teach folks to do, even that energy comes back to you. Okay? So I don't deal and dabble in nothing negative. I don't deal and dabble in no evil. I don't deal and dabble in no hurt or harm, because that is not the energy I desire. Okay, so feel free to start asking your questions. Make sure that you keep it wellness centered. If I have a video on it, it's likely in the description, but I'll reference you to that for more information. I'll give you an overview and then reference you to the video for more information. But if not, feel free to ask your questions and I'll give the best answer I possibly can. Farrah, hey Farrah girl, hey Farrah. Question. Queen, can first generation Africans do hoodoo practices, or is it appropriation? I know some of my ancestors were captured in the slave trade, but I don't know them. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you are first generation African, you are Haitian, you are Jamaican, you are Trini, you are Panamanian, you are Puerto Rican, you are Cuban, you are whatever. Okay. If you are a person of African descent, you can practice hoodoo. If you are a person of African descent, you can practice hoodoo. And again, this is, let me give that caveat as well. I'm giving you my opinion, my perspective, my opinion, my perspective. If you are of African descent, you can practice hoodoo. Hoodoo is comprised of different African spiritual practices, because our ancestors came from Africa and they were taken from the land and brought their practices over to them and incorporated them into the traditional religion that was placed upon them, which is Christianity. There's also some Native American practices in there, right? So for me personally, I am okay with indigenous people and folks of African descent practicing hoodoo, because all of it is blended in hoodoo. So I'm very, very, very comfortable with that. And that was a good question. Okay. Sis said, what is the best way to cleanse a new residence? To cleanse a new residence, there's a variety of different ways to clean it. I will say the simplest one is you could do a floor wash. And in that floor wash, you can put some things like first off, you got to have your water. So have a pot of water. And in that pot of water on a stove, you add a few capfuls or maybe like a half a cup. Y'all know I'm not good with measurements. I just pour. So if I got a big pot, okay, I'm going, this white vinegar. Let's say this white vinegar in a pot full of water. I'm going to put about this much white vinegar. Okay, so whatever that is, look, pot full of water. Okay, that's how much white vinegar. I'll put about 5 or 6 bay leaves in there, probably 5 bay leaves. Okay, I'll put 5 bay leaves in there. I'll also put a couple of drops in. And again, this is For me, I'll put a couple of drops of either clove oil or I'll put some fresh cloves in there. Now, let me explain. So the white vinegar is for clearing and purifying the energy. The clove oil is for clearing and purifying the energy. The bay leaf is for clearing and purifying the energy. The good thing about the fresh cloves or the clove oil is it removes any negative talk from being spoken. So it's good if you could wash the walls with it or smudge with it as well. It's good with setting the boundaries of negative talk and conversation in the household. So clearing any negative words that may have been spoken in the house, clear it out. Also add some horsetail. Horsetail is good for keeping the boundaries and maintaining the safety of the household. You can add some lavender for infusing some peace in there. You can add some cinnamon sticks to bring in abundance, okay? So there's a variety of different things. So you essentially just want to add various herbs that are aligned with your intentions for that house. And you make the floor wash, you bring that to a boil, stir it up. You can strain it, pour it into a mop bucket, and you will mop your floors and clean your walls with that. Hold on one second, y'all. Let me get Okay, I'm back. I'm back. So yes, so you can mop your floors with that, and clean your home with that. You want to make sure that you also smudge the space. Okay, so you could take some of those same herbs and smudge the space if you want to. You can use clary sage as well, or white sage, or whatever type of sage you prefer, and you can add that or smudge with that as well. At your threshold, you want to line the threshold with casserilla, salt, and cinnamon, okay? Excuse me, not cinnamon, casserilla salt and brick dust, okay? Casserilla salt and brick dust. And you line the thresholds with that to be able to set your boundaries at your home, okay? You could also add some horsetail to that as well. Horsetail just has a bit of a stench to it. So I will just caution you before you add that. The same thing with valerian. The same thing with valerian. Valerian does the same thing. Valerian is good for setting boundaries, but it also has a stench to it as well. Okay, so just be mindful of that. So that's a very quick, simple way. And then, of course, to that floor wash, if you want to, you can add some of your DNA to it if you want to. I would definitely advise. I know a tradition that is very popular in root work is you add urine to it, and you will mop the floor with your urine to set your home. Okay, and that is something that's very traditional and done, but for me, I don't do that. I don't mop my floors with urine. Okay. I don't. When I move into a new home, and a lot of root worker elders will be like, oh girl, that's not good. Da, da, da. You can't do that. Da, da, da. For me, I'm not that just don't sit well. What's the song? It is well with my soul. That just don't sit well with my soul, mopping my floors with urine. But a lot of folks do it. So you can add your urine to it as well. Okay, I'm going to go back through the comments and get to the questions. Somebody asked for book recommendations for Hoodoo. I shared some of them in a video yesterday. I'm looking because I have them right here. So Working the Roots by Michelle Lee. And Working the Roots by Michelle Lee, if you are in the wellness community, you know that was one of our book club reads some months ago, but it's a very good read. It's a lot of recommendations. And essentially, Michelle Lee traveled throughout the Geechee and the Gulf Coast to talk to a variety of elders, and they shared a lot of information with her. One of those elders that is in that book that she spoke to is Yeye Louisa Tish. And Yeye Louisa Tish is an initiated Lukumi priestess of Oshun. And she's in that book sharing a lot of information. And she has her own book that I'll also recommend called Jambalaya, which is our book club read for this month. Okay, I saw you, Mary, in the group chat, Mary Cobb in the group chat, in the Wellness Community group chat, talking about how good Jambalaya is. And Yeye's book, Jambalaya, she talks a lot about Louisiana voodoo, which we do have to be mindful that Louisiana voodoo and hoodoo are a bit different. And some folks don't like when I talk about this, y'all, but it's just true. It's true. And again, I'm not going to give a whole history lesson, but you can study the transatlantic slave trade. I've talked about this on previous videos. But the Francophone countries like Senegal, Benin, a variety of Francophone countries, they came to the Gulf Coast, areas like Louisiana, parts of Alabama. Alabama is a mixture of both, but parts of Alabama, Mississippi, all of that Gulf Coast area. And that's why first of all, a lot of French is popular because those were French territories in those areas, but they brought the tradition predominantly of voodoo over to Haiti and Louisiana and areas like that. Okay, now with that being stated, Louisiana voodoo and hoodoo have a lot in common. A lot of practices have been shared over the years, but there are some distinct differences, and that is okay to acknowledge. Voodoo itself, the tradition itself, they work with, first off, voodoo is a religion that you should be initiated to. Louisiana voodoo, from my understanding, does not require initiation. It's very like openly practiced, just how hoodoo is, okay? But they work with certain energies. They have different names for their energies. They call their energies loa. And hoodoo, you don't necessarily, and let me just speak from my understanding and from my folks growing up and from what I know, you don't work with loa, you don't work with orisha or anything like that in hoodoo, right? So there's a lot of like misinformation of information just being blended. Let me not say misinformation, there's the misblending of information, okay? Orisha, loa, very different energy, okay? Very different energies. Louisiana voodoo, or voodoo as a whole, focuses a lot on working with the loa. Orisha practice comes from Nigeria, okay? It comes from Isheshe tradition in Nigeria, commonly known as Ifa, okay? Very different. Hoodoo works with the elements, works with the water, the air, the fire, earth, the root, the land, okay? Works with the elements, but there are not necessarily names for those elements or those energies of the elements, okay? There's just not in hoodoo practice. Yaya Louisa Tish grew, and she tells her story in Jambalaya. She's from Louisiana. She grew up practicing or grew up around Louisiana voodoo. She speaks about growing up, and Marie Laveau was her neighbor, I believe, you know? So a lot of her book is centered in Louisiana voodoo, and she incorporates also a lot of Lukumi in there because she is initiated of many years. Initiated priestess of Oshun in the Lukumi tradition. So a lot of her perspective is the Louisiana voodoo perspective, a Lukumi perspective, and she also talks about other ATRs in there as well. So Jambalaya is a good book if you are in the wellness community. That is our book of this month that everybody voted on and picked for this month, which is perfect alignment because it's Hoodoo Heritage Month. So that is the book that we'll be discussing this month. That is the second one I recommend. And then the third book I recommend is called Hoodoo Flowers by Ricky Doc Flowers. And it's a good book. And this is for folks who are very big in hoodoo with still using the Bible and incorporating a lot of the Christian aspects of hoodoo. Also, the Book of Psalms. I think it's called like the Hoodoo Book of Psalms or the Book of Psalms for hoodoo or something like that. But books like Ricky Doc Flowers' book and the Book of Psalms or Hoodoo Psalms or whatever the book is called, those two books are very good for, again, Christian folks who still like to incorporate a lot of hoodoo. Christianity in their hoodoo. Okay, so get those three books: Working the Roots by Michelle Lee, Jambalaya by Louisa Tish, and then Hoodoo Flowers by Ricky Doc Flowers. Okay, and that's all I'm gonna recommend for right now. Okay, let me scroll up because I know I missed quite a few questions. Okay. Hey y'all, hey, I see y'all. I appreciate the love. Let me see. Do I need work to activate my gifts? Do I need work to activate my gifts? When you mean work, do you mean root work? If you mean root work, okay, if you mean root work, do I need root work to activate my gifts? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Nobody needs to do anything to you or for you to activate your spiritual gifts. You have the power to tap into your spiritual gifts and explore them and open them up on your own. There's a variety of different herbs that you can utilize yourself to explore them on your own. Let me tell y'all something. Okay? Let me be very clear about something. This, again, my personal opinion. The reason I always tell y'all the herbs to use, the crystals to use, the things to do, how to put things together. I have many videos, my abundance rituals videos, my dispelling rituals videos, and all these things, right? And I tell you about these different things and these blends and stuff like that. If you are in the wellness community, you know, I give you the spiritual bath, I give you the recommendations and things like that. You are your most powerful root worker. I do not necessarily advise that your first response is to let anybody do work for you. Okay. And I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, sis, but I don't advise that. I advise that you do it for yourself. Only you know your life. Only you know your true intentions. Only you know what all is up in there. Only you know that. You know what's all up in there. When folks are doing work, your intentions and your energy are attached to that work. You don't know what somebody is doing behind closed doors. I don't care who they are. You don't know what kind of life they got going on. I had somebody told, and I don't. Somebody told me about a worker who was pleasing them, admitted to pleasing themselves while doing work. You wouldn't know that they're doing that, but that's something that they claimed that they needed to do to enhance or bring out their ashe. Is that what you want? My point is, you don't know what folks is doing, what folks got going on, what their intentions are, what type of life they live in, what type of energy they're dwelling in, for them to be doing work on you, for you to be buying their stuff to do your work and all of that. You don't know. And I'm not saying that you should never. What I am saying is always try, if you are going to do some work or something like that, always try to do it yourself. And that's why I said I have videos where I'm talking about like the herbs and stuff that you can use to enhance your dreams and to tap into your spiritual gifts and all of that. I tell y'all about herbs, and sis, pay attention. I tell y'all about herbs like blue lotus and damiana, and chamomile and mugwort and things. I have videos many years old talking about these things because these are herbs that you can buy yourself, bless yourself, make yourself, infuse with your own intentions yourself, and work yourself. You have to be very, very careful about who you just pick something up from and you bathing yourself in it, or you are just trusting somebody to do something for you. I wouldn't advise that you get no work done to open up your spiritual gift. I would advise that you go buy your certain herbs, like the herbs I just named, your mugwort, your damiana, your blue lotus, and a variety of things like that. You can even try various shrooms and psychedelics to help enhance your spiritual gifts, okay? Various plant medicines. But there are a variety of things that you can do to help yourself open up. But the key thing is going to be about just like tuning in and focusing in. Communicate with spirit and let spirit know what you are interested in doing and how you're interested in communicating with them. You have to learn your own spiritual language per se. Okay, so just be very mindful of that. You have the ability to activate your spiritual gifts already dwell within you. You were born with them. Okay, so they were born in you. You just have to wake them up. Okay, and to wake them up literally means you just bring awareness to it. You bring your own awareness to it. Okay, so bring your own awareness to your gift and simply do that by sitting still, paying attention. If you track your life, you'll probably remember dreams and times that your intuition, your gift have guided you, that spirit has communicated with you and said, hey, pay attention to that. Hey, don't do that. Hey, check this out. You'll probably remember times that you've received that guidance when you were open and you were aware. So it's just about bringing your awareness to your gift, and that's how you activate it. And then you can communicate with spirit and set your boundaries and let them know what you're comfortable with. In the description of this video, I have a whole nother video called Spiritual Gifts, the Four Clairs. And that's one of my very popular videos where I explain and break down different spiritual gifts and how spirit communicates using the most popular four clairs, which is clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. And I break down how they show up. And I also share some more information about herbs and crystals and things like that that you can utilize to help you tap into your spiritual gifts. So again, that video is called Spiritual Gifts, and the link for that is in the description. Okay, the next question. I already answered this one. Okay, let's see. Let me scroll. Can protection work sometimes be considered negative or evil? When people, yes, people can consider anything negative or evil. When people hear you doing protection work, they hear you doing hoodoo, they hear you doing, like people hear you got a mojo bag, right? Like shout out to the wellness community. We was watching Eve's Bayou, and the community is aware now of what these things are, and they noticed that Moselle was, subscribing or prescribing rather a mojo bag to the sister. And again, if you grew up in the deep South, you know, people see these things as evil and terrible. So people will see you have a mojo bag of protection stuff and think that you're evil and think that you're negative. You know, it's protection work itself is not negative. You are protecting yourself. But can negative things happen as a result of your protection work? Yes, to the people who are doing or who to people whose intentions are negative or evil, right? So when you do your protection work, vision it like a fence around you, right? A fence around you. If somebody throws a ball and the ball bounces off the fence and hits them back, they threw the ball. You did absolutely nothing. You just standing there. You got your protection fence up. You got your protection. They threw the ball. It bounced off you. It bounced off the fence and hit them. That's all it is. That's all it is. All you did was you put your fence up to protect your sacred space. Okay, so protection work itself is not evil or negative, but can negative things or evil things happen as a result? Yes, to people whose intentions are to do evil to you. So this is why the people may have the misconception that, oh, you put a root on me or you did something negative to me. I didn't do nothing to you. I protected my boundaries. I put up my fence. Your intentions was negative, and the jail you set for me is the one that you have rotted in. Congratulations. Congratulations. The negative things you wanted me to feel is now what you are feeling times 10. And now your mental health is going down the drain. Congratulations. The jail you set for me is the one that you have rotted in. Congratulations. I didn't do nothing to you. You did it to yourself. Okay, and that's what protection work is. I'm not doing anything negative to you. I'm not wishing anything evil on you. I'm not trying to hurt or harm you. You try to do it to me, and my fences is up, baby. And that ball bounced right back to you. Congratulations. Okay, so y'all, and that's why I always tell, this community, I always tell y'all, protection work is priority. Protection work is priority. That's priority. That's number one. Before you do your manifestation stuff and all of that, protection work is priority. You got to protect yourself, protect your sacred space. Okay. That was a good question. We short down, Grayson. We do not measure. We let the spirit lead. Okay. We do not measure. How would you know the work you are doing is successful if your ancestors are working with you? There are multiple signs that your work is successful, that the work you are doing is paying off. I'll say number one, and this is why I'm very big on teaching wellness and teaching how to be a good person, talking about awareness, talking about how to mind and discipline the ego, because you will know your work is working because you feel the calm and the release of it. But you have to have a certain level of awareness, of self-control, of discipline to do that, right? So if you are in the wellness community, you know, we read the 7 spiritual laws of success last year, right? And one of the laws I'm always talking about, and I have a whole video on that as well, is the law of detachment and how powerful the law of detachment is, right? Because what the law of detachment teaches you is that you do the work and then you release. You release. So you will know your work is working because you feel that release. You feel that calm, that peace, that ease. You're no longer anxious about the situation. You're no longer worried or concerned about the situation. You have detached. You have detached. Then another sign that you know the work is working is when approximations of your manifestation starts occurring, right? So let's say you did some abundance work. Next thing you know, and this is where a lot of people mess up, because next thing you know, you walking down the street and you find $1, or somebody end up blessing you with a little extra money somewhere. Somehow a little extra $1 or $2, maybe $5 comes to you and flows to you. That's a sign that your abundance work is working. You know, you got a refund on something that you wasn't even expecting a refund from. A little bonus money hit your account. You got a raise or a little promotion or something. That's a sign that your work is working. So you got approximations towards your desire, towards what you were manifesting. That is a sign that it was working. Okay. So, but the thing is, I said this is where some folks mess up, because people forget to give gratitude for the approximations. You have to give gratitude for the approximations, for the little signs that your work is working. Always give gratitude. So when you find that little extra $1, be grateful for it. Don't wonder why it ain't the $1 million you tried to manifest. You are $1 richer than you was the minute before you found it. So you got to be in full gratitude and be thankful to spirit that my work is working, my work is manifesting, more is coming. Always be in gratitude for the approximations. That was a good question. Nika said, Queen, is there a difference between hoodoo and voodoo? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. So hoodoo is, first off, it's an African American spiritual practice or tradition. And hoodoo is more flexible. It's more open. And I had to learn this as well, because if you grew up around it, or you grew up even knowing folks who are traditionally root workers, you know that there are certain set things that are done. But what I had to learn was that that's just how things are done in that area or for that people. Hoodoo is practiced very differently. There are not necessarily how can I describe this? There's not necessarily initiation processes for everybody. Some families and in certain areas do have initiation processes in hoodoo tradition. Again, especially if you are Gullah Geechee. I'm speaking specifically to my Gullah Geechee folks. If you are Gullah Geechee, you know what I'm saying? You know that there's certain things. And I'm talking, when I say if you are Gullah Geechee, I'm talking about like your family is still there. You are in the culture. You are aware of the culture. You know what it is. And you know your family is that. You know what I'm saying? You know that there are certain things that are done. But what I had to learn is that that's not the case everywhere. There are many cases where people practice hoodoo and they don't have these same things that Gullah Geechee folks do in practice. And I have to say that because a big difference between hoodoo and voodoo is that voodoo is a religion, and there is an initiation process. Whether if you are going to Benin, you are going to Haiti, there is an initiation process that cannot be skipped or missed no matter where you are. So you cannot call you, I'm going to say, because people call themselves whatever they want to call themselves, but traditionally, you are not a voodoo practitioner if you are not initiated or have not gone through certain processes of initiation. So it is a religion, and that is the biggest difference. I classify hoodoo as an ADTR, an African Diaspora traditional religion, because it is a traditional religion of the African diaspora. Yes, hoodoo is a way of life, but it is set practices that help you achieve a certain goal, which that is religion. That's what religion is, right? But there's not necessarily an initiation process for most folks. Okay, for most folks. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes some sense, but that is the biggest difference. Also, as I explained earlier, within voodoo, they work with the loa, right, which are energies, or energies. I don't like calling them deities or gods or goddesses or anything like that. They are energies that they work with, and that's the energies they primarily work with. Hoodoo is about working with the elements, working the root. And when we say the root, we're talking about anything that comes from the ground, anything that comes from earth is the root, okay? And the root is also your root. The root is also your foundation and who you are. So your connection with your root and the roots, right, that come from the earth, right? So that's what hoodoo is. And so that's some of the major differences between hoodoo and voodoo. Okay, let me scroll down. Sadly, I don't know where my roots are from. My family is so segregated. Do you have any ideas as to where I can find who I am? I love that you asked that question. Where are your people from? Where are your people from? Where are your people from? At the beginning, as far back as you can date, where are your people from? And then I want you to pull up a map of the transatlantic slave trade. And that's why I said some folks don't like when I talk about this, when I'm explaining the difference between Louisiana voodoo and hoodoo, because the reason it's so different is because of where the ancestors came from, right? So are you more drawn to hoodoo, Louisiana voodoo, Haitian voodoo, voodoo out of Benin? Like what are you more drawn to? You need to know where your people are from primarily. You don't have to ask them nothing. Just think, where are your people from? Are your folks from Mississippi? Are they from Alabama? Are they from Georgia? Are they from South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Geechee folks? Where are they from? And then you trace back on the transatlantic slave trade map what countries in Africa your people primarily came from. Okay, and it works like a charm. I'm telling y'all, it's literally that simple. And I'm going to be honest, if you do ancestry DNA, you do any of that, it's going to be made up of those countries. 9 times out of 10, and I'm saying if your people, where your people from, okay? And I always have to be mindful because I'm very privileged to know where my people from and know the land and all of that. My great grandfather, okay? Very privileged to know that. And I know everybody that does not know that. You may need to ask some questions about that. But once you find the origin of where are your people from, and I'm talking about from the time that they were enslaved, if you possibly know, to when they were freed, where are your people from? So a lot of folks up north, right? Like my mother was born in Brooklyn. She's the youngest of her siblings. She was born in Brooklyn, but her people, her mother and father are from Georgia. Both of their whole families are from Georgia, all the way down the coast of Georgia, all the way up to North Georgia. Everybody, that whole Georgia area is where my people from. When I look at the transatlantic slave trade map, my people come from Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria. My mother's eldest sister took an ancestry DNA test. Guess where she was primarily made up of? Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria. Okay, and that's all hoodoo. That's all hoodoo. So where your people from? Look at the transatlantic slave trade map, and that's how you'll trace back what your people, where your people were likely from, and then study what were the African traditional religion and spiritual practices from those areas. And then you'll understand the connection of Louisiana voodoo, Haitian voodoo, and all of that. Okay, so study. It's going to take some question asking, some map looking, and some researching, and that's how you could figure it out. What is the meaning and spiritual use of balm of Gilead? It's for abundance. There is a balm in Gilead. There is a balm in Gilead. That is for abundance. That's what balm of Gilead is for. You could use it just like you would use anything else for abundance. I'm scrolling down for more questions. Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month. What would you suggest be the first step for someone who wants to begin practicing? Thank you for taking my question. That's a good question. First steps, if you want to begin practicing, practice. Make sure, mind your intention. Make sure your intentions are centered in wellness. Again, you're not doing this to gain power and control. You are doing this to be well, to ensure that you are well, your family is well, everybody around you is well, the universe, you are playing your part in the wellness of all the universe, right? Mind your intentions, study, do. That's it. Mind your intention, study, do. To study, I already gave 3 book recommendations: Working the Roots, Jambalaya, and Hoodoo Flowers. The 4th one was, I think somebody put the name in the chat. It's like the Book of Psalms for Hoodoo or something like that. You could type Psalms Hoodoo in book and it'll probably pop right up if you decide to still practice some Christianity and Hoodoo as well. But yes, just study, get you some elders, some folks who are in it, join the wellness community. Okay, we talk a lot about it, but get you some folks who are in it and just study and practice and try. This is the thing, right? And you know, we have to be mindful about this within Hoodoo. A lot of folks, they just want the spell. What is the spell I can do for this? What is a spell I can do for that? And this is why, you know, as I said earlier, I'm very big on like giving y'all a variety of, when I did the abundance ritual video, I'm giving you a list of different herbs and fruits and crystals and things you can use. Y'all put your combinations together and see what works best for you. I can sit here and say, okay, you know, for an abundance mojo bag, put you some orange pills, some palm needles, get you some cinnamon, put a little clove in there, some basil, and I want you to put that in the bag. I want you to put it in there with some green aventurine crystals, and I want you to set it on your altar, and then I want you to wear it around your neck and carry it. I can tell you that, but guess what? There may also be another combination that's divinely aligned with you that I don't know of. So you just gotta try it. Try it, and you may find your own unique blend of things that works for you, and that abundance start flowing to you like this. Okay, so just because it works for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. So that's why I said just study and just try things. There's no one size fits all shoe for this thing. So just study and just practice and just try and watch how you work. Watch how you get your own blends. And that's why I said, it's cool. You wanna buy somebody else's stuff, cool. But imagine if you came up with your own thing that was divinely aligned and infused with your own intentions, and you prayed over it and you did your work over it and you carried it with you and it was spoken to you from your ancestors. You are moving, and that's what you do. You ask your ancestors, guide me, lead me, show me what I need to do. Next thing you know, you'll start smelling things. You'll start seeing things. When I say seeing things, I'm talking about every time you turn around, this herb is popping up in your face. You open your door, it's a pine cone. That came from the wellness community. Somebody said they did one of my abundance ritual things, and they said that they open their door and that's a pine cone. That's a sign that your manifestation is coming. Pine represents abundance. Random pine cone sitting at their doorstep. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. That's your ancestors speaking to you, saying, hey, put this in there. Hey, use that. So just try stuff. And your stuff is for you. Your stuff is for you. So you try it, you use it, see how it works. And guess what? If if you do something for protection and you don't feel protected, do something else for protection. If you do something for abundance and you wait a little while and you feel like it ain't working, do something else for abundance. You know what I'm saying? You doing something to enhance your intuition and you feel like it ain't working, do something else to enhance your intuition. Just try and figure out what's the blends and what's the remedies and what's the prayers and all of that works for you. Okay, so that's where you start. Mind your intentions, study, and just try. Okay, let me see. Clary Sage smells so good. Yes, it does. Question, Queen, how can one find what ATR they are most connected to? My family are all Christian, so I have no guidance on where to start. Gratitude. Much love to you, Lee. To find what ATR works for you, study the different ATRs, right? So you have ATRs, African traditional religions, and you have ADTRs, which is African diaspora traditional religions. So ATRs would include like Isheshe, also known as Ifa. It would include like the Dogon traditions. It would also include Voodoo out of Benin and a variety of other ATRs, African traditional religions. And then you have ADTRs, African diaspora traditional religions, which would include like Lukumi or Santeria, Palo Mayombe. It would also include Kondoble and a variety of different Haitian Voodoo, a variety of different traditional African diaspora traditional religions. So basically African traditional religions that were just how hoodoo is, where it's blended into Christianity. Oftentimes it's blended or synchronized with Catholicism or whatever the popular form of Christianity, because Catholicism is still Christianity, but whatever popular form of Christianity was dominant in those in the diaspora, right? So study all of them and see which one you are most drawn to. Some of them have very strict initiation processes. Some of them do not, right? So like Kondoble has a very serious initiation process that's lasts years and years. Isheshe has initiation. Santeria has initiation, Palo has initiation, Haitian Voodoo has initiation. So then you would go through the initiation process. So study, and then see what you feel the most attracted to, and then follow the process to be properly initiated and to start practicing, which would look like finding an elder, okay, who practices and can kind of lead you down that path. How do you become comfortable doing root work? Sometimes I be so ready to my oils and baths and something stops me. It may not be aligned with you. It may not be your time. Okay, so it just may not be aligned with you to do that. So only do what feels aligned with you. But I do have to say this. Sometimes you have to check your fear. If something stops you, what is stopping you? Is it your fear because of what you've been conditioned to believe? And sometimes, y'all, we are at this like crossroad where we know that we have been conditioned to believe that this is evil and this is negative. But then you're at this crossroad because, you know what you've been conditioned to believe, but then you want to break away from that conditioning. That's the crossroad. So you're trying to start practicing and you're trying to do it. And you're right there at the crossroad. And you just have to decide that I'm going to go this way. I'm breaking away and I'm doing it. So what is stopping you? Is it that you are at the crossroad and that fear, that conditioning is still somewhere there? And this is your time where you just got to decide which direction you're going in and do it anyway. Or are you being stopped because it's just not aligned with you? There is not a fear thing there. It just does not feel well. It just does not feel right. then stop. There are some times where I'm stopped from doing certain things. There just are, right? There's some times where I'm even though it's a multitude of things, even though I know what to do, I know how to do it, I have all the things right there. Sometimes spirit is just like, not right now, not right now. This is not the time, So you have to kind of heed those warnings. Is it fear, or are you not aligned with it? Okay, so mind the difference, and then sometimes just stop if you need to. It's not a thing about, let me not say it's not a thing. If it's the fear, it is a thing about becoming more comfortable. But sometimes it's not about becoming more comfortable. It's about it's spirit stopping you from doing things that's just not in your alignment. Okay. Let me scroll. Next question. I think I kind of answered this already. Any recommendation or advice for newbies? I feel like I'm all over the place. There's so much ground to cover. It is a lot of ground to cover, but my recommendation for new people is start with self. Start with yourself. A lot of folks get into hoodoo, get into root work, and they want to heal the whole family. And they want to break generational curses. And they want to do all these things. Start with yourself. Heal yourself. Take care of yourself. Do what is divinely aligned with your wellness. Heal yourself first. Be the example of healing for your tribe. Let them see you glow. Let them see you elevate. Let them see you prosper. And as a result of your prosperity, everything and everyone around you will prosper. That's aligned with you. Let me just say that's aligned with you. Because as a newbie, you also have to be prepared that some people need to be released and removed. They just do. Some people are not meant to elevate with you. Okay, so everyone who is aligned with you will elevate and will prosper and grow naturally. You don't have to push your beliefs or force your beliefs on anybody. You don't have to tell them to do this or any. Be open. If they ask questions, answer it, but you don't force anybody to do anything. People will naturally elevate as you elevate, who are aligned with you. Some folks are not aligned with you and you just don't know it. So those folks will be released. Okay, so that's my advice for newbies. Start with yourself. Okay, so be selfish about your healing journey in the very beginning. I answered the book recommendations already. I found a home that I'm interested in purchasing. It sits in front of a graveyard. Thoughts on cleansing the home? Friend, House of Alicia. Why you gonna do that, friend? Why you gonna do that, friend? In front of the graveyard, friend? You gonna... Is it your people graveyard, friend? Why you gonna do that, friend? I'd say don't do that. Me say fine, get somebody else to do it. Don't do that, friend. You don't need to do that. If it's my people, like my family has a graveyard. We have, thankfully, thank God, I'm very blessed where we have generations of our family members who are buried in one place. If there's a house on that land, or if I wanted to build on that land, I would do it. I wouldn't build a house on nobody's graveyard. Or move into a house that's even close to or around nobody's graveyard. I just would not do that, friend. I don't recommend that. It's going to require a lot of protection work, okay, because you don't know who all up over there. So it's going to require a lot of protection work. It's going to require a lot, okay? So I just, friend, get somebody else to do it. You said you interested in purchasing. That means that you ain't purchasing yet. Let somebody else have it, friend. Let somebody else have it. This is why, wellness community, y'all voted for the document. The vote is still open, but y'all voted for the documentary. That's what's leading right now. We still gonna watch Skeleton Keto because there's some conversation that could come from that. Okay, there's some conversation that could come from that. How would you recommend finding elders in your area who could guide you in hoodoo? How would you recommend finding elders in your area who could guide you in hoodoo? I always tell y'all, if y'all want to find the folks, y'all got to be in alignment with the folks, right? Go to the festivals, go to the things. Like the interesting thing is, right, here in Brooklyn, we had BAM, which is a African festival that's popular here in Brooklyn. We had Afropunk. I was there. we go to things that's aligned with us. Like folks who do this, folks who do that work, we are at the African things. Okay, we are at the African things. Okay, so you got to go to those things in your area, in your neighborhood. If you don't know, if you don't have like I do realize that some folks, you know, I live in Brooklyn. Some folks don't live in areas like that. You know, you might be, you know, somewhere, y'all know this a little shade. You might be somewhere in Omaha, Nebraska, you know, and you don't have those types of things that are common in your area. Okay, but if you are, you will just have to travel. But that's how you find an elder in your area. Go to the things, go to the festivals. If you got a Ethiopian restaurant, Nigerian restaurant, Jamaican restaurant, go to the restaurants that are like cultural and go to cultural events. That's my point. And that's how you get aligned with tribe who do these things. Okay, go to cultural events, especially if you want to meet people in person. You're trying to find your tribe, folks who are like-minded and in alignment with this stuff. Go to cultural events. Okay. Let me see. I'm scrolling down. More questions. Okay. Question. Where can I put my altar in my apartment that it won't be bothered by by others' kids, by others, also known as your own kids? Okay. I was told not to put it in my bedroom. I've had an altar in my bedroom before and it didn't always sleep. This is the thing. So number one, let me just say the belief of not putting your altar in your bedroom comes from ATRs that you need to be initiated into to practice. That is not a universal belief, especially in hoodoo. And that's why I said some of it is not necessarily misinformation, it's misblending. It's misblending. That is a blended belief that came from ATRs, that specific ATRs that you need to be initiated to, and people just started adding that into hoodoo as a belief. Okay, that's a misblended practice, that belief that an altar should not be in your bedroom. Okay, and also that's a misblended belief that comes from ATRs that you need to be initiated to, that you need to be initiated to a certain orisha to have that restriction or that taboo. Okay, so let's be clear on that. So that's not true for hoodoo specifically. But if you are in that ATR and you are initiated or you have welcomed that energy, then that would be true for you. Okay. Now, other places outside of a bedroom, you can put it in a drawer, you can put it in a closet, you can put it in a cabinet. One of my elders, and let me be clear, he was initiated to an ATR. He was a Babalawo in Isheshe tradition. And, you know, this was my first time seeing a full Isheshe shrine. It was in his coat closet in his house. And he turned his whole coat closet in the house into a shrine. You know, whole thing, huge, beautiful, gorgeous, whole thing. Okay, so it could be in a closet. It could be in a kitchen cabinet that's high. You know those cabinets above the stove that people don't really be using like that? Put it up there. Put it in there. You know, so it's a variety of places you could put it that you can hide it from the kids. That's still sacred, and you know, you can control who has access to it, and put a little lock on that cabinet too, or a little lock on that drawer. Okay, let's see more questions. I'm scrolling. I hope y'all are well, family. Thank y'all for hanging in there with me, all 337 of y'all. I see y'all. What are good hoodoo practice? Wait, what hoodoo practices are good for new business owners? What hoodoo practices are good for new business owners? Anything for abundance and protection. Anything for abundance and protection. A good, especially if you are a new business opener, a new business opener, a new business owner, do a road opener. Okay, and that road opener can involve a variety of things. I have a whole video on that. And if you are in the wellness community, I actually put in the wellness community, in the Patreon, go to the search box and type road open or road opener, and the road opener should pop right up. Okay, so I already put that in the Patreon. Do that road opener for your business, okay, and open those roads, do your abundance rituals, and that's what you do for a new business, okay? And do Goddess Divine Jane, you leaning towards OG wellness community. You close to it. You done been with us for a while, so you got the things, honey. Okay, so go on to Patreon and get the road opener out of there and do the road opener for yourself. And congratulations on the new business. New Goddess Divine Jane is doing an herbal tea business. Okay, so she's starting that, and she's been like putting some things in the wellness community in the group chat, and we've been blessed to be able to watch her grow into her business and her prosperity in that way. So she will be well. Okay, this question, hi Queen, any recs for online herbs? I do not have any recommendations for online herb places, but I know the wellness community does. They often share various like links and online herb businesses that they recommend. I would prefer to go to a local shop, but I haven't found any. Yeah. So people can put it in the chat of like online herb places that you recommend. I buy all my herbs in person. Okay, we have like a variety of herb shops. If you are in Brooklyn, I always tell folks go to the Islamic Strip on Atlantic Avenue. If you are in Brooklyn and in all the Muslim stores, they have a whole bunch of herbs. I had put some videos in my Instagram story of them. So they have a whole bunch of herbs over there. If you are in Harlem, go to Watkins on 125th Street. In New York, we have plenty. So, we have a lot of options. Okay, there's, yes, varieties of botanicas and stuff like that. I see somebody said the Bronx. It's plenty. But as far as online, people in the chat could be able to help you with that. What did I do? Okay, there we go. Y'all, I thought I almost lost the comments, child. Okay, let's see. Is having a negative thought the same as speaking it? I have an unreasonable fear that pops up when I don't stay in the now. Will that manifest? So essentially, if you have a negative thought, is it the same as speaking it? And your fear is centered, if you leave the present moment, the here and now, are you going to manifest these negative thoughts? Now, this is a good question. I will simply say, if it's manifestation is a combination of your awareness, your focus, your intentions, right? It's really centering your intention. So this is the thing. If you are having a negative thought, sometimes, in Hindu tradition, they call it the monkey mind. I remember I was in Bali, my guru was like, he kept saying, we have to control the monkey. We have to control the monkey mind. The mind is jumping all over the place. And the goal with meditation is to discipline the mind, right? To discipline the monkey. And not necessarily discipline it, but first off, you have to start by observing the monkey. So sometimes you are observing the monkey. And in the power of now, he calls this being the watcher. You are the watcher of the mind. You don't allow the mind to control you. You kind of step back and watch the mind. If you find yourself experiencing a negative thought, you step out of it and watch it. And watching it looks like acknowledging that this is a negative thought. This negative thought stems from a judgment I am making of something that was once an experience. So you start to watch and explore where your mind is going, what is the roots of this, and that is how you transmute that thought or transmute that energy, right? The only way it will manifest is if you bring your focus and your awareness to it and you sit in it. That is how it will manifest. So don't sit in it. Don't focus on it. Become the watcher. Become the observer. So I would recommend reading books like The Miracle of Mindfulness by Clearly, Spirit told me, bitch, take a break. Get it together. Get it together. The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay, it's the book. I recommend that you read The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. The other book I recommend that you read is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. He also has a book called The New Earth, which is like the how-to for the power of now. So that's a great follow-up. I also recommend that you, oh gosh, I can't believe. Y'all, what's the book by Gary Zirkov? What's the book by Gary Zirkov? Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm blanking on this book right now, but somebody will put the title. But The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Books like that are good for understanding The Seat of the Soul. That's what it is. Thank you so much. The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zirkov. Read those books. Miracle of Mindfulness, The Power of Now, A New Earth, Seat of the Soul. Okay? Seat of the Soul. And that helps you understand the mind and negative thoughts and judgment. The Wellness Community, we just read The Power of Now last month, and that was our book of the month for last month, and it sparked great conversation and understanding the ego and all that stuff. If you join the Wellness Community, the replay, anytime we have these book club meetings and all of that stuff in the watch parties, the Eve's Value watch party, the replay of those discussions is always in the Patreon. So even if you join now, you could go back and watch the replay of our discussion of Eve's Value, the replay of our discussion of The Power of Now. So you can watch all in all of our old book club replays and stuff like that. The 7 spiritual laws, I mentioned that from last year. That replay is still available on Patreon as well. Okay, next question. Hey, I see somebody said that they are at work. Hey, to my working folks, thank you for having me in your ears while you at work. Okay, sneak and listen. Tell the coworkers I said, hey you all. Okay, I'm scrolling through for more questions. Oh, I appreciate the love, y'all. I appreciate it. How often should you use those gift activating, assisting type of herbs? As often as you need it. So like the blue lotus, damiana, mugwort, things like that. As often as you need it. If you feel like you need it frequently in the very beginning, use them frequently. But if you don't need them frequently, every other day or whatever, don't use them. There's no, again, that's the beautiful thing. Like there's no set, and some folks will try to tell you, you got to use this for 3 days straight to sit. Some people need things for 3 days straight, right? So like the blue lotus, damiana, mugwort combination. Some people need that for 3 days, 3 nights straight before they see results. Some people, the first time they take it, they go straight into astral projection. So everything is not for everybody. There is no time limit or time frame. It's just about what works for you. Even like with the dosing and how much you use of what, it's just about where you are now. And and again, just what works for you. So there is no time limit. Okay. And I do advise that y'all just have to be very careful of that. Be very careful of people who give you these random number recommendations because it sounds good, right? Like, folks love 3 days and 7 days and things like that. Everything does not need that. Sometimes, yes, you do, but many times everything does not need that. You always have to tap in your intuition and say, what feels well for me? What feels well for me? And that's why some folks, I'm gonna be honest, some folks don't like the way I teach because I'm always like, whatever feels well for you. Whatever feels well for you. But what I found, and this is why I'm very big on teaching wellness as a whole and how to be a better person and how to enhance your intuition, because what I found is that some people need that level of dictation, because that's what it is. They need that dictatorship. They need somebody to tell them, because some folks don't know how to identify what feels well for them. And I understand that. Some folks have been through so much trauma and so much heartache that they don't know how to identify what feels well for them. So when I say like, oh, about this time or whatever feels right for you, they don't even know how to compute what feels right for me, what feels well for me. So they need you to say 3 days, 6 days, 5 days, 2 tablespoons, 1 cup, this, that. They need that, and I do understand that. But if you are a person who needs that, I would advise that you start with understanding your trauma, start with shadow work, start with just doing some simple things for protection and cleansing out the energy and all of that stuff before you move to like the deeper things. Okay, start with like understanding who you are and finding what wellness is for you. Like Kirk Franklin said in the doc, some people have been broken for so long that you have to ask yourself, what would I be like well? So you need to start there. Okay, before you get into any of this, you need to be able to identify what does it feel to be well, right? Like, what does it mean to be well? When I say, if it feels well for you, what does that mean? If you don't know what that is, then you need to figure that out first, okay? Which is basically doing some healing work, okay? More questions. I'm trying to click it. Can some people speak evil intentions into existence? Absolutely. People do it all the time. When they say terrible things in spirit. I'm just giving this as an example. When people say terrible things like calling themselves broke, right? If you keep calling yourself broke, you'll always be broke. Okay, to me, that's an evil spirit. That's a negative spirit. People saying things like calling themselves crazy. things like that. You speak those things into existence. You keep speaking that out your mouth. The power of the tongue, the power of the tongue, the power of the tongue. You have to always remember that your tongue is one of your most powerful weapons. You just always have to remember that. Okay, so just don't speak willy-nilly. Don't be speaking willy-nilly and talking crazy. Be mindful of the words that you speak over yourself. Okay, be very mindful of that. Be mindful of the words you speak over yourself and over others. And it's one thing, again, intentions is always key. So it's one thing if you joking. Y'all know Black folks, somebody be funny, we be like, you're so stupid. We don't literally mean stupid. Our intentions mean like, you so funny. So it's really the intention, because somebody could speak nice words, but their intent that's attached to the words is evil. So it's the intention that matters. Okay, for example, somebody y'all know, come on, Southern folks, somebody say, you have a blessed day. They don't really want you to have a blessed day. They don't really want you to have a blessed day. Okay, so things like that you have to be mindful of. Okay, just because somebody tell you have a blessed day, they don't mean that that's what they want to manifest for you. Okay, so be mindful of that. I talked about that already. Somebody said, detach yourself from the outcome, ? That's the law of detachment. If you struggle with the law of detachment, get the 7 spiritual laws of success. The 7 spiritual laws of success by Deepak Chopra. And again, join the wellness community, and you could go back and watch our chat on that. Go to the collections part in the Patreon, and you'll be able to see in the collections, we have a collection called Book Club, and you can literally just scroll through and watch all the book club Zoom meetings that we previously had on that book. And also my notes from that book are also on the Patreon as well. Question, any tips on balancing being in multiple ATR practices? Any tips on balancing being in multiple ATR practices? Listen, I'm going to bring a sister on here, and we're going to talk about this. Okay, I'm going to bring a sister on here. We're going to talk about this. That is a very controversial thing, right? To be in multiple ATR practices is very controversial. Okay, and it's very controversial simply because, y'all, it is believed that when you are in multiple ATRs, it causes confusion. There's a confusion of energies. There's a confusion of a variety of things, okay? But also in some ADTRs, it is normal to be in multiple ADTRs. So like, for example, it's normal for people to be in Santeria and Lukumi, or Santeria, Lukumi, and practice Palo as well. That's very popular, I've noticed, in a lot of ADTRs, where people can be in multiple different ATRs at one time. I cannot necessarily say from experience that I can give you advice on balancing multiple ATR practices, but what I can say is make sure that your elders who are leading you in those multiple ATRs are teaching you how, whatever elder told you to do that. Because if you are initiated into an ATR before you move to another ATR, it should, I've been told, it comes up in your divination. It comes up in their divinations that they are. So there's a Lukumi practitioner, Lukumi, he's an elder in Lukumi, and he's also in Palo. He's a high-ranking person in Palo. And he said in his divination, it came up that he was supposed to do Palo. Okay. So people say that. It should come up in your divination. Whatever elder told you to do that, tell them to teach you how to balance working with all of those different energies and to balance those different practices. Most often what I've learned, and again, I can't speak from personal experience, most often what I've learned is that there's one that takes precedence. Right? There's one that takes precedence over the other. So like, for example, with him, Lukumi takes precedence for him, and his Orisha work takes precedence over him, over Palo, his work with Palo. Okay. So that's from my understanding. Okay. So reach out to elders who do that. Okay. Let's see. Can root work be effective even if it's beyond your understanding or you don't necessarily have an intention? For example, I have random craving for nutmeg and cook with it. I don't know if I don't cook with it. I don't know it's for prosperity. So yes, this is the thing. Root work, the key to root work is intention. So just because you do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's root work. Just because like everybody who, everybody cook. You know what I'm saying? Everybody cook. Just because you may put some cayenne pepper in something doesn't mean that you are going to speed up the energy of whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just because you put nutmeg in something doesn't mean that that's now a prosperity thing. If your intention when you put that nutmeg in it was for prosperity, then yes, it's effective. Okay, so the intention is what's key. I will say this. If you have a random craving for something, spirit may be telling you you need that. If that craving came out of nowhere, spirit may be guiding you to use that, but then you need to use it with intention. Okay, you need to then use it with intention. So it's root work if you're using it with intention. The intention is what matters. Okay, and that's with anything. Okay, I'm moving down. Let me see. Oh, I appreciate y'all. Okay, this one. If I did work and detached a week later, each person appeared in my dreams. I've never dreamed about them before, wasn't thinking about it. Could that be a sign that it's working? It could be a sign that it's working, or it could be a sign that they're in your subconscious mind because you did some work. Okay, so it's a difference between the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the unconscious mind. A lot of people don't know the unconscious mind. That's where a lot of your shadow work comes from, the unconscious mind. Okay, so there's a difference between the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. Okay, so sometimes folks are in your subconscious and or unconscious mind, and that's why they come up in your dream. Okay, so it could be a sign that it's working, but it also could be a sign that they are in your sub or unconscious mind. Okay, I'm going to take a few more questions, and then we going to close it on out. What would you call yourself if you've been doing? Oh, I'm sorry, I should have put the question up. Sorry, y'all. What would you call yourself if you've been doing hoodoo or some form of hoodoo without realizing it your entire life? You don't call yourself anything. You don't call yourself anything. Even people who do hoodoo, some people do call themselves things. Some people call themselves like a conjure person, a root worker, or whatever. But you don't have to call yourself any label. You don't have to. This is just, again, hoodoo is in Black culture. Root work is in Black culture. Everybody has been doing it, whether they know it or not. So that doesn't necessarily mean those people have like a title or a thing. You don't have to call yourself anything. It's just what you do. It's just what you do. Okay, let me scroll down. Yeah, somebody said voodoo originally comes from Benin. And this is a good question. And it does. Voodoo originally comes from Benin and Togo area. Sis said, what similarities have you seen between hoodoo and obia? So similar, obia is kept very, very sacred. I was even trying to study a little obia while I was in Jamaica. Okay, but they are very, very sacred, and I respect it. I respect it. That's why when some people, what I always tell y'all, people hate gatekeeping. I've been gate kept against. I get it. I respect it. Obia is very sacred. From what I've seen in the little tiny bit I know, one of the biggest commonalities. That's how I know it's time for me to head out, y'all. I've been talking too long. I was gonna say one of the biggest commonalities, one of the biggest similarities is the use of the herbs, the use of the root, the intention, the praising, right? Because in hoodoo, the ring shout is popular. There was also some praising that was going on, very similar, reminded me a lot of the ring shout around a fire, right? So again, the use of the elements, the use of the roots, and also the shouting and the drum circles that occurred. That those were some similarities. Okay, let me see. More questions. Okay. Queen, is it easier to practice hoodoo if it's already in the memory of your cells and DNA, even if you didn't grow up with it, but you are drawn to it? I'm Native American and African. Of course, it's natural to you. It's in all of us, right? So it's very natural. So a lot of folks will find that once they start mindfully practicing or consciously practicing, they'll notice that like these things just come naturally, and they kind of naturally just get the urge to put certain combinations of things together, and they just do it. It just goes. It just kind of flows with them. It's a natural thing. I love this question. What about those that are adopted? My family are my people. However, they are not my bloodline. Does it make a difference? This is the thing. Okay. And again, my personal belief, the people who adopted you, as you acknowledge, they are your people. They are your people. Now, according by your bloodline, there are, and it'll be good for you to do something like, some type of like ancestry DNA or something like that, to find out what's in your bloodline, and you could choose to study that as well. And that goes to like that cell memory and things like that. But also, your people are your people. And I can tell you from personal experience of doing this work for a long time and doing thousands of consultations at this point, over the years, your adopted family, those ancestors will come forward for you. They will. Your adopted family, those ancestors will come forward for you. So when I say those are your people, those are your people. In the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, they say maktub, it is written. It is written. So sometimes some things are just meant to be. And, I'm not going to go in full detail with all of this, okay, but I will just simply say, something I've learned through my work is that when someone has a spirit attached to them, meaning they were meant to have a child, that child will come to them no matter what. So this is why I'm very big on like abortions do not matter. And my opinion, abortions, miscarriages, thing. If that baby is meant to come through, that baby will come through and come to you by any means necessary. Sometimes even through adoption. So sometimes your family that you were adopted by, they literally are your people. You were spiritually attached to that family and meant to be with them. So again, those ancestors will come through for you. Okay. So to all of my adoptees out there, just trust and know that those truly are your people. And when you call forward your ancestors, the spiritual energies that are attached to you, they will come through for you. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to take 2 more questions, y'all, and then I'm going to head out. Okay. What advice would you give to people who claim Black indigenous origins? Okay, meaning that they feel like they are indigenous to this country. They are Black people who are indigenous. Black indigenous origins. Is there a difference in their hoodoo practice? No, there is not. So again, hoodoo practice is a combination of practices from the continent as well as Native American practices blended or synchronized into Christianity as well. Okay, so those practices, indigenous practices, are too in hoodoo. So it wouldn't be any different for you. That was a good one. Okay. Let me see. One more and then we going. One more and then we going. I'm trying to get one that I haven't necessarily already answered. How can I connect better with my ancestors? I already did that. I talked about the ancestor altar and stuff like that already. Okay. I already talked about that. Somebody said, how do I reverse any negative hoodoo on me? Do your protection work? And I already talked about that. I have a dispelling ritual videos. Go to the dispelling ritual video and watch that video. Most of my family is rooted in Louisiana. I practice hoodoo, but I am drawn to Louisiana voodoo. But do I need to be initiated? Louisiana voodoo very much functions like hoodoo, where it's just kind of like natural and ingrained in the culture, especially of the Creole people, but in the culture of Louisiana as a whole. So I would definitely say get Jambalaya by Yeye Louisa Tish. Go follow Yeye Louisa Tish on Instagram. She goes live quite often. She also has a Patreon, which I am a part of. Okay, she does monthly money rituals. It's $5 a month. Let me be clear, for the $5 a month, the only thing that comes with that is the one monthly ritual, and that's it. But if you want more access, I guess, to like other things she's doing, she always does classes and a variety of things like that that you do have to pay more money for. Okay, but Yaya Louise Satish is a good guide for that. She's a Lukumi priestess, grew up in Louisiana Voodoo. She's a good guide for that. She's also a griot. She's a storyteller. She good guide for that. I have a video on my channel. I think it's called NOLA or New Orleans or something. I went to like some misas, and also I went to like some ceremonies and events and stuff like that with Yaya Louise Satish. So that video is on my YouTube channel. You can kind of see her and see how she functions and interacts, and like some of her chanting and prayer calls and storytelling and all that. It was over multiple days, and I kind of compiled it into like one video that's on my channel. So I think it's called like NOLA or Spirituality in New Orleans or something like that, or NOLA. But you can look for that if you want to get more of an idea of who she is and how she is, but also follow her on social media and get Jambalaya. And she also just came out with a book called Calabash of Cowries, which is a book of folk tales, of Orisha folk tales. So that's also good as well. All right, family. Thank you to everybody. I appreciate y'all who blessed me financially. Let me also go to my Cash App and read it. Oh Lord, I was gonna go to my Cash App. My phone dead, child. Okay. Thank you so much to everybody who blessed me. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all dearly. You said before you go, please share the lovely lipstick. This is Fenty, the antique velvet, the new collection, the velvet collection. I like it, but I'm gonna be honest. The lip paint is better. It has better staying power. The antique velvet is good. It gives that crisp velvet look, but also look at that. The lip with the liquid lip, the stunner lip, would never do this. This has high transfer rate, therefore it fades very quickly. So the only reason this looks so fresh and so crispy is because I'm drinking for a water bottle. But if I was drinking like tea or coffee or something hot, this shit would be gone. Okay, so I'm just being real. And I love Rihanna. You know, I got a lot of Fenty stuff. I love Rihanna. It has a good look, but the staying power is just not there like that. High transfer, very high transfer. Okay, so get the stunner, the liquid lip. That's a better investment. It's going to last you longer, much better investment. The necklace is from Bold Addictions. This is from Bold Addictions. Much better investment. Okay, love y'all, family. I appreciate all the love. I see y'all in the comments. Wellness community, we will be having so my intention for this month with the wellness community is Hoodoo Heritage Month. I want us to have multiple watch parties where we observe things centered in hoodoo and spirituality as a whole. So we have multiple watch parties. We did Eve's Bayou, which was so good. We ended up watching Eve's Bayou and then having a 3-hour discussion after. Okay, so our next film will likely be the United States of Hoodoo. That will likely be our next film that we're going to watch. I think that's the one I was about to look to see who's winning the poll, but I think that's the one that's probably still winning the poll. We're definitely probably going to squeeze Skeleton Key in there somewhere sometime this month. But join the wellness community, $5 a month. Our book of the month is Jambalaya. So for Hoodoo Heritage Month, we are having a lot of these types of discussions. Okay. And really just talking about how hoodoo is everywhere, root work is everywhere, it's all up and through us, it's in everything we do, and just opening up the floor for more of these types of conversations. So join if you can. $5 a month is all it is. Get up in the group chat and come vibe with us. Okay, family, I'll see y'all soon. I'll announce the next watch party sometime soon and my one-to-one consultations. Y'all ain't gonna keep harassing me. Okay, I'll open up my calendar for the one-to-ones very soon and put that in the Patreon as well. All right. I love y'all. I'll see everybody soon. And peace. Look, me with my lipstick finger. Peace. Peace, y'all. Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month.